in terms of performing arts, I know, you know, in dance they have the big dance. In theatre, there's the school's Shakespeare's festival and so on. And I think there are national things going on, and I think it's about, again, how you tie into it, because regardless of what your art form is, it's a big draw, but that doesn't mean that can't inspire some theatre work, some you know, creative work from other mediums. And I think likewise, you know, if there's the big dance, then that's opportunities for sculpture as well as for all sorts of art forms to kind of respond to that and get involved and pick up on that. I think if you get too specific, then perhaps there's a danger that there are too many festivals, and then people have, you know, got to make a choice about which one they support. But I think just jumping on the bandwagon of other people's festivals, actually, you can create a bit of a buzz, you know, using whatever your medium is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like I was saying earlier about how there is this fantastic platform and base of what people of Harlow talk about is the sculpture town, and then it is known around the country in very specific areas that this is a sculpture town. So again, coming back to this platform, if you offered someone that could open doors to, like I show these pictures of these, you've got great vast open spaces here, which is one of the beauties of this place. All it takes is, and so I come from the Royal College of Art, and I adore the place, but there are other very reputable universities out there. All it takes is to go to a reputable university that has a sculpture course and say, and I'm being very, very simplistic here, we're going to offer this university a residency to create new Pacific art, new Pacific sculpture in Harlow. It would take the basis of someone putting up an artist, bed and breakfast for 2 weeks, or being very flippant here. The artist will by nature be very frugal, but the artist from, let's say, the Royal College of Art comes with what money can't buy, and that's kudos. And then you do that for 10 years in a row, and you'll find yourself as the sculpture town. I know you might look at it all, it's very simple. It is, and we were just talking about Colchester a minute ago. They had 1 or 2 problems with their building, but now, bang, they're there. You have Focal Point in Southend. They were reputable photography, they built on photography, they got young. But when I say young, we always talk about bringing the youth. And and I did say earlier that I was possibly one of the youngest here. I was being flippant again, but there is an ageism thing here, so be careful about, there is talent beyond 35, I just want to stress that. But there is some very, very simple measures that can just be put in place for a couple of £100. It doesn't take a lot, and you have the platform here, and that is a valid idea. Just go to a university and say, we will support you in kind, we will take one of your graduates on, and a month, summer's residency in Harlow, and you get a piece of permanent artwork.
That's an interesting point. I know that David Nash, RA, superstar sculptor, did his first commission in the Gifford Garden here, and they funded him to do that and put him up and fed him.
And just as a side, yeah. Paul Graham, one of the most important British photographers in the last 50 years, was born in Harlow. He's like an international superstar, Paul Graham. And how you talk about I was talking about this in groups. You just get that big name artist in, and it just filters down. Paul Graham, huge, come from Harlow.
Okay, well, we move on to another question. We've got artists on the panel and in the audience with significant expertise in education. What changes, if any, would the panel introduce at any level to further promote understanding, to integrate and to educate pupils, students, about contemporary art and artists? I thought about this because America do this, I don't know whether it's coast to coast, but they do a pretty good job in Ohio, I happen to know, to get junior school level students kind of aware of people like Pollock and painting like them, and I guess that's something they'll never forget. So any thoughts on this, introducing something?
I suppose one thing I think about that is that one of the hardest things that to educate is not the children, suck it up like a sponge. So it's actually parents. It's actually adult education, and I think that often gets missed when we think about education. We're thinking about children getting, involved in some creativity. They will naturally do that anyway. So I think it's actually it's maybe the teenagers upwards really that I think are probably the, who comes into the galleries, and you have to really think about getting beyond just children. I think when it comes to education.
I think it's starting young. We are, as a nation, visually illiterate. Some of James's photographs earlier on, I think the philosopher looking back at what's going on behind him is just a prime example of visual illiteracy in architecture. And as a nation, we don't care. Why don't we care? Because we've been taught that it's not relevant. Because it's not on the syllabus, it's not taught in primary schools. Yes, some primary schools and kids do suck it up, but it's not then sort of nurtured, it's not taken through, it's just dropped out because it's not seen as being important. It has to be valued. Somebody else, I think, this morning said value culture as National Health Service. It's important. It's that important if we're going to get a visually literate society. Start very early years and nurture it all the way through.
I think it's fair to say that arts in the curriculum generally have been squeezed, and certainly squeezed more in secondary school now with the way league tables and performance measures work, and actually even more so into the future. So there is a real danger that young people don't have a sort of really vibrant arts education, and that it's almost left to parents and others to do it outside of the classroom. And I think, sort of going back to what I was saying at the start, I think it's somehow winning that argument that arts gives you a whole sort of set of skills that allow you to solve problems. And I think sometimes presentationally, being seen as the creative, being seen as the person that's different, somehow you're not seen as the people who solve the problems.